She down there cooking some damn spam.
No, it's just mysterious.
I like barbecue sauce.
Hey everyone, it's Micah Fragrance here, back at it again with another banger video as always. In today's video, I'm doing something a little bit different. Normally, when I'm making a video, I'm talking about, oh, here's my top five fresh fragrances. Here's my top 5 date night fragrances. Here are 5 fragrances I don't think you should get. Don't get Nautica Voyage. Get these fragrances instead. One thing that I haven't really talked about, and I think I may have talked about this a time or so before, but actually getting into fragrances. How do you get into fragrances? There is a lot of advertisement that you will see that a lot of people who don't know about fragrances, they'll see all these ads. They'll get not really clickbaited into them, but they'll order some random cologne like the Her Loss cologne, just because they see ads on it. And that's not really what you want to do. Getting into fragrances, the most easiest thing to do getting into fragrances is just smelling as many fragrances as you can. So my first fragrance I had ever got was Armani's Stronger With You EDT. Now this is still my favorite fragrance, and I got this November of 2022. And recording this, it is March of 2025, and I still love this fragrance. But this was gifted to me by my dad. And, after I started wearing cologne, I went to my local Dillard's, started smelling more fragrances, started liking more fragrances. That was really something I was never interested in. I didn't really care about cologne. Obviously I still showered and used deodorant and everything, but cologne was just really not on my list. But after I got this one and I started wearing it, it definitely did come up on my list a lot more. One of my big recommendations though, and again, just smell as much as you can. Like I said, I went to my Dillard's and just smell as many fragrances as I could. Smell fragrances, see what you like. Start looking up videos on that. On those specific fragrances. That's another great way of getting into fragrances, watching videos. Now, you do have to be a little bit careful because some content creators do get paid a lot of money by these brands to say Armani was paying me a bunch of money for this review. I'd be like, oh, Stronger With You is the best fragrance I've ever smelt. Now, that's true for me. For someone else, that might not be true, and they could just be saying that, because they don't want to risk saying something bad about a fragrance, and then, they're kicked off the PR list. So that's the only bad thing. I feel like a decent amount of fragrance influencers are pretty legit. I don't feel like a lot of them are just doing it for money. But yeah, getting into fragrances is so different for everyone. I guess I just kind of shared my experience a little bit, but as I had said, test as many fragrances as you can. Watch videos to educate yourself. Look at note breakdowns. That's another huge thing. Go to Fragrantica. Look up a fragrance you have. Say I have Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Beau EDT. This is the first cologne you have. You're like, oh, I really like how it has like a tropical smell to it, but I don't know what it is. Go on to Fragrantica, look up Le Beau EDT. You'll see, okay, top notes of, and the note breakdown will be up here for an example. It'll be top notes of bergamot, middle notes of coconut, and base notes of tonka bean. Okay, I know that the coconut is giving me like that tropical vibe. Maybe I will try more coconut fragrances. This is a relatively fresh fragrance. I'll scroll down on Fragrantica. I'll see, this reminds me of, here's other fragrances that kind of, smell like this fragrance. That's a really good way to get into fragrances, really finding fragrances that you enjoy. The best way, arguably, in my opinion, would be going the Middle Eastern route. Now, sometimes it can be hard to find actually good Middle Eastern fragrances. Rasasi Hawass is one that gets really hyped up. And I don't know if you guys can tell, I love this stuff, compared to the other bottles in my collection, this has a pretty decent, a decent amount of juice taken out of it. Paris Corner Maj Moscow Mule, another great one. I got this one like 3 months ago, and it hasn't even been warm yet. This is a warm weather fragrance. I've already gone through a decent amount of it. So, you can find some really good Middle Eastern fragrances. The beauty of them is they're really cheap, and that's going to be amazing because what not a lot of people realize, fragrances and collecting fragrances and collecting anything in general is going to be a pretty expensive hobby because you're just spending money, right? It's not like woodworking where you buy your products, or you buy your supplies, you make something, you sell it. Now, if you're a perfumer, then it would be a little bit different. Like me, I am starting my own perfumery brand. I will make and sell my own fragrances, so that's different. But yeah, Middle Eastern fragrances, super good way to go because they're cheap. They clone fragrances very well. If you don't know what, oh God, excuse me. If you don't know what a clone is a copy fragrance. A fragrance that is just supposed to imitate another fragrance. So, for example, Rasasi Hawass is one that I showed. This is a clone of like Paco Rabanne's Invictus. This one does have some differences, and you will find a lot of fragrances that have the same DNA as a fragrance, but do it differently. Like Hawass, I wouldn't say is a full-fledged clone because the only Invictus that it could have been cloning around that time that would make sense is the original Invictus, and it's way different than the original Invictus, but still definitely does have that original Invictus DNA. So Middle Eastern fragrances are a super good route just because you can smell a lot, they're cheap, you can get samples as well. I'm not a huge person for samples. I'm sure maybe, if I did sample a lot more fragrances, I wouldn't have nearly as big of a collection. But I like buying full bottles just because if I really don't like the fragrance that I got, I can trade it. It actually has some value to it. Where if I just have like a 3 milliliter sample, I really can't do much with that. So that's pretty much it for my recommendations. Starting to get into fragrances. Let's do a quick recap. I said watch fragrance content. I said smell as much as you can. I had said look into Middle Eastern fragrances. What else did I say? I said something else, but I cannot remember it. That's pretty much all I got, though. But again, everyone's experience is different. If you guys are not just starting out watching these videos, if you guys are just supporters or you just stumbled on this video, but you've already started out on your cologne journey, let me know how you started out. I think it's so interesting how everyone started out. Like for me, my dad gave me my first cologne. Some people some people bought their first cologne. Some people stole their first cologne. I have no clue. The stories are endless with anything in life, but as well with how you got into cologne. Nonetheless, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you all for watching. Please make sure to drop a sub and a like if y'all have not already. Thank you all for everything. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, everyone.